This is the last one for me, guys, and this is a very important topic. It talks about why solve one way over another. And really, what we go into is we want you to be able to kind of solve all of these systems of equations in the most simplistic and fastest way possible. So we're going to go into why you would solve over one way compared to another. Now, the beauty of systems of equations, especially linear ones, is you can solve them any way you would like. You could solve it by graphing technically. You could solve it by substitution. You can solve it by elimination. It doesn't matter which way you solve it. You will get the same answer. However, some ways will be better than others. The one thing I will say is I don't really recommend you solving a lot of these or really any of these unless we tell you to by graphing, because if it doesn't intersect at a just in an integer location with the coordinates, you're not really going to be able to approximate what it is. So let's start off. This is one that I would solve by graphing. And the reason that I would solve this by graphing is that they are both y equals, or I could easily solve these both for y equals. And if you have that kind of situation, that's when you're going to want to use graphing. And what I would do for these is I would write down, for this video, I would write down the two equations and put graphing and then kind of give an explanation why. So I'm going to say, or I would put whatever method I'm going to use and explain why. So here I'd write down these two equations and write graphing because they both start with y equals. In this one, there are two different ways you can use it. Your easiest way is going to be substitution. Substitution, if I spelled that correctly. You're going to be using substitution because you can easily solve, so this is what I would write. Because you can easily solve the second equation for one variable. Okay? And we can do that. We could solve this for x, and then I would have x equals 3y plus 10, and then I can just substitute that in. This kind of problem is going to lend itself to an easy substitution just because we can solve for x, or we can plug it in and solve for y very easily and then solve back for x in the end. So I'm going to use substitution if I can solve for one variable. With this one, the easiest way here is I'm going to have elimination. And I'm going to use B/C for shorthand. Elimination, and when I ask you to do this, don't use B/C. Actually write out the word because, but I have limited board space. So elimination because the coefficients of y are opposites and will cancel out. You could also make an argument that they're also both in standard form. And if they're both in standard form and I have those opposite coefficients, as soon as I add these up, I have 7y equals 19, and I can go very quickly to solve for, or 7x equals 19, and I can go very quickly for solving for x. So elimination because the coefficients of the y are opposite and will cancel out as soon as I add them together. You could also say that both are in standard form. So I want you to try real quick. Which way do you think is easiest for these? So take a minute, pause it, and I'll write out my explanation and why. So I'm going to say for the first one, the method I would use is elimination. And I'll kind of give a bullet point list. Elimination because they're both in standard form. And if I multiply the top equation by -2, then I cancel out the x's. Then I eliminate the x's. So that's exactly what I would do elimination for that one. You could also say that they're both in standard form. The second one, definitely substitution. Already solved for one variable. So substitution, it's solved for one variable already. And I'm saying it's solved for one variable instead of just solving it's already solved for x or solved for y, because it doesn't really matter as long as it's solved for one of those variables already. Next one, pause it, give me your explanation, and come back. This first one, you could either say substitution or elimination. And the reason why we could do that is because if you were to take this first one, you can easily solve this for y. So your argument for substitution would be can easily solve for one variable. Solve for y in second equation. Or I would also say, you could say elimination. I'll use red for elimination. You could say elimination by multiplying this bottom one either by -3 to get rid of the x's or -4 to get rid of the y's. So you can make an argument here for either or, and that's the kind of beauty with systems of equations. You can make that argument for either one of those. However, in that second one, you should definitely be making the argument for elimination because, well, you have opposite coefficients. So I'd say op coefficients, and I would write this out. Opposite coefficients of x's will eliminate. Eliminate them. And the last one. Okay. Try it out. Pause it. Come back to me. All right. For this first one, I would definitely say elimination. And if you were to look at this, elimination. I can spell. This is why I teach math, guys. Spelling is not my elimination. Still think that's wrong. Whatever. But I would easily see with this one, look at your relationship between these two equations. This one is actually going to be a no solutions, but you would tell me you would solve this via elimination, and your argument here could be multiply. I could easily eliminate variables. They're both in standard form. Whatever you want that argument to be, but substitute. You could do substitution, but it wouldn't be your best bet here. And then lastly, this one I would also say elimination, because if I were to take the top equation and multiply it by -2, I would end up being able to get rid of my x's very easily and solve for the y's. So I'd get -5y equals -18. And probably most of these don't have pretty answers, but it kind of gives you a look into why you're going to solve one way or another. And that's very important when it comes time to the test and when it comes time to just solving any systems of linear equations, because you want to be able to do it in the most efficient and fastest way that's going to be easiest for you. Well, thank you guys for watching this video, and thank you for participating in Blend Space. I hope you had a fun time with it, and have a good day.